All right, everyone, let's run down the rest of the games in the Big Ten. Also, let's get this question in from David Greenshield, loyal Buckeye fan and viewer here. So I'm looking at Trey Sermon's numbers in the passing game at Oklahoma. I'm looking at 16, 12, and 8 catches with 3 total touchdowns out of the backfield as a receiver. Do we expect those numbers to be much different here, Kevin, in regards to Trey Sermon as a pass receiver in this offense?
I was going to go the other route and say, I guarantee you Trey Sermon will attempt fewer than 5 passes this year. But as a receiver, I mean, I could see him being used as a dump off and maybe a couple of design plays or whatnot. But I don't see a situation of it being anything more than just a change of pace, because why are you going to have a situation to where you're not throwing to Olave and Garrett Wilson and the talented freshmen and Jamison Williams and so on and the off-maligned tight end aspect of the offense? None of that. I mean, I don't see a reason to do anything other than it just being a check down or just a change of pace to try and get an opponent from overloading on somebody else. But I don't see a scenario to where they have more than just a couple of plays in there that could be Sermon-esque in terms of being a pass catcher.
I like Sermon's all-around ability. I think that is definitely a wrinkle that Fields can take advantage of. He did make some magic throwing the ball, dumping the ball off to J.K. Dobbins, particularly against Clemson. Maybe in the games against better defenses, you take the check down. And I think there is a school of thought that Ohio State would like to get the running back and the tight end involved in the passing game. But again, you have those outstanding wide receivers that the greatest show on turf that could be unleashed this year with some of those wide receivers that the sky just seems to be the limit. I know that I think Ryan Day was quoted on his radio show this week making that same sentiment that Kevin did, that, why would you not go away from throwing to one of these outstanding wide receivers? The flip side of that is the young guys at least need to improve on their blocking. That was a complaint that came out from Coach Day, which is not uncommon for freshman wide receivers. So I think that their playing time will be predicated on who's going to be a better blocker. And as he said, that's not something that routinely comes up when you're recruiting outstanding wide receivers either. It's we throw the football. We throw it a lot. Look at our numbers and look at our wide receivers we put in the NFL and this, that, and the other. But then you get them here and they remind them that if you want to play, you've got to be able to block for the running backs and do the little things, run great routes and be precise and be a technician. And that's what Brian Hartline is probably talked about with those young guys. But I look for the passing game to just be next level, in my opinion. I mean, it's going to be, if they get the protection and the guys run great routes, the potential is there to just be off the charts, because Fields was phenomenal last year, and every indication is he's going to be better this year. So that's a bad sign, I think, for the Big Ten in general.
Steve, of course, the passing game could include the contributions of one Julian Fleming, ultra-talented, one of the top wide receivers in the nation. But, of course, the wide receiver core is loaded and deep. Do we expect – is there any indication right now to know what kind of role he's going to play, if he's going to be a significant factor, how he's been worked into the offense during workouts?
Yeah, I think Coach Day said all those freshmen are going to play, specifically Fleming. I would say he is probably a split end or an X, I would think. It seems to me that Jackson Smith-Njigba may be more of a slot, perhaps. And then G. Scott is a guy I think that could play several of the different positions. I could be wrong on Smith-Njigba. He could be a flanker, I guess, as well. They have X and Z, and they used to call the slot H. I don't know if they still call the slot H or not anymore. But, they're going to have a lot of work. And Hardline, he stopped short of saying we're going to pigeonhole this guy into split end and this guy into flanker or a Z. He said we are going to cross-train these guys at all these different positions. Olave, I believe, is the flanker, and I think Jamison Williams is the split end with the starters, and then Garrett Wilson is the slot, I believe. So those are the three starters, it would seem like. But I would look, I mean, it could be Smith-Njigba, it could be Fleming. I mean, Wilson had 30 catches last year, I think 4 touchdowns, I think. He had somewhat of a breakout year last year. And now are we looking for one of those true freshmen to do it? Could be a case where a guy has 6 catches 1 week and then goes 2 weeks and maybe lucky to get a catch and then has 8 catches against somebody. I mean, with freshmen, you just never know. It's a consistency issue and getting their effort and attention week in and week out, attention to detail, preparation. Are they going to prepare at the same level for 8 or 9 weeks in a row to where they're consistent? It rarely happens with freshmen. So, Kevin, if you've got a better idea of who would be the breakout guy, I'll listen to it. I don't have a firm feeling that it's Fleming, Smith-Njigba, one of those two. It could be. I mean, Smith-Njigba, the first day we saw him against Air back in the spring, was a wizard. But again, that could have just been the best day he's ever had in his life, too.
I don't know. I mean,
don't know.
It's hard to sit there and say who's going to be the guy. I think we'll see a game for each of them this year where, somebody just ate the Wheaties in the morning and is going to go out. I mean, you have to be targeted as well. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And they're all so talented, and I'm going to throw Mookie Cooper in there coming out of the slot as well, that it's just hard to say, oh, it's definitely going to be Fleming, or it's going to definitely be Scott, or it's going to be Smith-Njigba or Cooper at this point. So I don't know. I think that they're all going to have their moments. I think anybody that sits there and gets too far away from Olave or Wilson in terms of who's going to be like the main focal point in terms of the throw game is probably doing themselves a disservice. But I guess if I had to pick one of the 4 freshman receivers to say who could have the biggest impact, I think I'm going to say Smith-Njigba. I just think that it's not a case that nobody else doesn't have it. I just think that he may be the guy who's most game ready at this point, just based on people I've talked to. But that's a guess. I mean, that certainly is a guess. And one other person I want to throw in there is I want to somebody who we've not seen play is Cam Babb. As long as Cam Babb can stay healthy, what could he do? I truthfully believe there was a point early in his career where he may have been the receiver with the highest upside on the roster. We've never seen him out there healthy going through anything. And if he's able to put in some time, this really could be a Johnny Dixon type of story.
Yeah. Injuries at the beginning of your career are almost insurmountable sometimes, and it's rare that we see a guy come back. I mean, Tyreek Johnson, same way. He's missed 2 years at cornerback, and now he's fighting to get into the rotation there as well. And it's an uphill battle. And again, there are new position coaches in some of these guys' cases, so that helps their cause, that it's not being held against them that, I had you last year and you never even suited up for a game. In some cases there are some changes and some different things, but I think it's very difficult to count on somebody who just their first year or two was a total wipeout, because psychologically that's a lot to overcome. And you got to be one hungry dude to work your way back from, what Cam Babb and Tyreek Johnson, some Hickman last year. I don't even know that he practiced. So, to take a year off football essentially and expect to come back and be anything close to what you were previously is difficult. But, they add to the depth, certainly. And if that depth's called upon, you hope those guys are ready to go.